I'm on the phone with Danny Boy now. We're doing our part 2 because last time he was in LA, we ran out of time and there was so much to talk about. And I actually just listened back to where we ended, and where we ended at was I was saying how when I first saw House of Pain come out, you guys look like hardcore kids, and I got all information from talking to you because you were a hardcore punk kid into Suicidal and skateboarding and all that shit, and that was intentional, and that was part of how you guys were growing up and stuff, being involved in hip hop, punk rock, and everything.
I mean, for me, for sure, not Eric and Lethal, but for me, most definitely. It was precarious in the 80s, growing up in the San Fernando Valley, which is like on the other side of the hill of Hollywood. As punk started to become a thing, there were a lot of punk gangs based on punk bands, if you will. Suicidal Tendency having, I'm sure, the largest at that time of, band to gang ratio.
Yeah.
And I remember yesterday, the first punk album I bought, I mean, if we're calling it punk and you're calling it hardcore, let's not, whatever those definitions are different to everybody. But at the time, the first record I had bought that was anything close to punk was Suicidal Tendencies record.
Yeah.
Genius record. It was also executive produced by Glennie Friedman, the photographer, as well, which was a whole other crazy story, which I found out years later that, I think he lent them $20,000 of his personal savings that he had saved up from doing all the skate photos for all those years. Regardless, signed to Frontier Records, blah, blah, blah. I didn't care about any of that. All I saw was dudes with white t-shirts buttoned to the top with hats flipped up, Venice written under them, V13 and throwing up gang signs. And I was like, these dudes are hard as fuck. And, I've always gravitated towards that, that counterculture, tough guy stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was the thing. And then as I started going out to nightclubs, there was a lot of dance clubs in LA. At the time, I would consider them like new wave type dance clubs. Phases, Hot Tracks, 321 in Santa Monica. What's the other one? In Dillon's in Westwood, and there's one in Hollywood that I'm forgetting. It'll come to me. But and this is where I started to see a lot of other type of dudes like that. And then we would go to punk gigs. We go to hip hop gigs, punk gigs. All of it was revolutionary at the time because if you're a suburban white teen, being the only white dude at the hip hop joint, it's different. It's weird. It's going out of your, your normal area of operation and beyond the wire. And so I was always attracted to that type of stuff. And what I wasn't attracted to was which is a definite California term, Hesher stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I grew up, that was status quo. I mean, I love Zeppelin and Black Sabbath like the next guy, don't get me wrong. But that whole, I grew up just, long hair, looking like that too.
Yeah.
But as I started to get a little older, I grew up on my mother's Motown records, man. So I've got my soul, my attraction to deeper, drum breaks and bass lines is way, something I'm more interested in than and that originally was what kept me away from punk for a while because it didn't, I didn't hear that. But I started to get into punk is what we're getting at. Minor Threat was great to me, Suicidal. But as far as the gang thing goes, there was a lot of gangs in LA. There was the Lads and there was the Circle One, the Family, and Suicidal Tendencies and Burbank Punk Organization, and in the Valley FFF and Mickey Mouse Club, and there was 20 more that I'm forgetting off the top. And then there was a lot of gangs like the Posers and Sex Jerks, and which were black gangs that looked more like members of Fishbone than they did Crips and Bloods. Wow. You know what I mean? They were into that alternative scene, nightclub stuff, whatever, and they were hard as fuck too. So, so that was the stuff we were into. So when House of Pain started to become a thing, all of my guys were from our clique, Mickey Mouse Club. So we were all flannels and slick back hair and Dickies and gas station shoes. We look like, we look like white cholos. And so Eric got down with that. When he got down, when we put House of Pain together, that was everybody looked like that. So, it became a thing he just rolled with how, whatever he just got with the program, as far as that's concerned.
Because he had I Got the Knack, and he was like, he came from the Rhyme Syndicate, right? So he had that song, I Got the Knack, before, correct?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, the dude was killing it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you got a record with Ice-T, you're in high school.
Yeah, that's
bro,
crazy.
I'm probably, the first on record fan. I'm sure, his family loved it, and I'm sure other kids got it. But I was running into Eric at the right time, man. We were at a party. I don't even remember where it was, man, somewhere in Northridge or something. And he came, he had an envelope from Warner Brothers with like the first Rhyme Syndicate EP and a sampler. And he was like, yeah, you can have it. He brought it to play at the party.
Okay.
And I don't even know that they even got to play it that night, but he was like, you could have it. I was like, bro, I couldn't imagine that he would give me something that the label sent him when he signed to Ice-T, like the first, advanced pressing of Rhyme Syndicate's Coming Through record.
Damn.
That he's on. I was like souped. I'm like, yo. And I remember prior to him getting a record deal, we were at a graffiti yard. We were all little white B-boys, there was only a handful of us in the valley. And you had to be tough back then, or you had to be like clever. Yeah. You just couldn't be that. You know what I mean? Without getting heckled and problems or whatever. And I remember sitting in his truck. He was in his dad's truck. I think dad had like a Ford, pickup truck back in the day. And he started playing me demos. And I literally thought Everlast was lying. I'm like, dude, this dude is playing me like unheard Rakim demos.
Damn.
And because he sounded like him, he flowed like that. And I'm not trying to compare, just for anybody new or listen, I'm not trying to say Everlast is, Rakim or Rakim, whatever. But to me, this was the first dude that I personally knew that could rhyme at a level that was worthy of getting a record deal. Let's go there.
Gotcha.
Let's just that was like impossible. That's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he had a flow like Rakim. Like if he was influenced by that, so be it. I'm sure he was. And who doesn't, put Rakim in your top? He's my favorite rapper. So, but for me, it's like, in everybody's top 10, he's got to be there. Regardless, I was like, wow, it was so good is what I'm getting at. Yeah. And I was like, maybe he's fucking lying about it. Maybe he's bullshitting. Like maybe this is not. So that says something. You know what I mean? And I wasn't like a novice hip hop fan. It wasn't like I was deep into whatever it was. Like I already knew everything on the landscape. So to hear him rhyme like that, I was impressed. And so when his record came out, I remember I was working at the Nordstrom Rack over there by the Topanga Mall. And I brought the cassette back to the stock room. We were all playing it, and I remember listening to it, and I remember being like, "Wow, this is super impressive." I mean, a dude that I went into, from my neighborhood. One, just the fact that he's in a photo with Ice-T at the time. I mean, Ice-T's a god in hip hop. You know what I mean? It's like you're like part of Ice-T's clique, and you running around Woodland Hills. Like, wow, like that was super impressive. So, record came out. I liked it. Syndication was probably the best joint on there. All the other ones were cool. What can I say? It was a cool record. It was a great record. I mean, for I'm going to say he was 17 when he wrote it, 18. I mean.
Wow.
Could never write that in my best day, and nor would I ever try. I mean, so never trying to, despite whatever our current status is, me and Eric, as far as brothers getting along, not getting along, whatever, I will never, ever speak against him in that way or ever try to reel back my admiration for his skills, the work he's put into it. I mean, and I don't know that I've ever said this before, publicly or not, but he's my favorite white rapper. If we're gonna get, if we're gonna put stuff in like categories.
Yep.
And I wouldn't have been able to put up with 30 years of bullshit, nor him putting up with 30 years of mine. If a dude that I was like, he's kind of cool or he's all right.
Yeah.
It don't work. Like, I really had to like the material that much.
Yeah.
And so, and I did. And then when we put House of Pain together, he basically was able to, within a few months of hanging around with me and this kid Todd Bailey, which is like he's name checking a song. I rip shit daily. Ask my man Todd Bailey.
Yeah,
I'm rocking. That's Eric talking about Todd, and him and Todd used to be tight. They first met and they just hit it off. They both like smoking weed. They were both Irish. They just had a they that him and Gator and those are all dudes from Mickey Mouse Club, and they all tightened up with Eric, and so what I'm saying is, I forgot what I was saying with all that, but regardless, so here's what I was saying. So he got, he was running with us for those like 6 months in Hollywood. And I literally moved to Hollywood just to keep up with him, because he was staying with his girlfriend at the time I left the Valley, and I'm like, man, I ain't gonna let this dude just pull off. I'm going to Hollywood too. So I moved to Hollywood. A lot of my dudes from the Valley followed me into Hollywood and used to come into my apartment and crash out and get high and drink, whatever we were doing, Yeah. And Eric used to be there too. And then we all started going out nightclub and just banging and clanging. And so Eric was able to, within like a couple months, put all of the stuff that we were like doing into rhymes. I mean, it was like having anthems based on your gang or the life you're living. And Eric, that's what that first record, as far as I'm concerned, that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing this dude put all of that stuff into words like I've never seen and heard before or since. It's woodpecker, pecker wood, take me out, you never could. Act up in my neighborhood, you better not. My aim is good. You know what I mean? Sick. Like that shit was giving me chills when I remember him, asking him to spit that for a kid Colin in our neighborhood from another gang called FFF, who used to come out to Hollywood, and every once in a while he'd pop his head in, and I was like, yo, check it out. And Eric kicked that rhyme, and Eric would just bang out he was belting out classics before they were recorded in that vein. And even if you weren't a hip hop fan, you were like, wow, damn, like this dude is talking like that gangster shit. Like for white guys, it was like, there was nothing else like it. And that for me was my thing, again, not to, in a world now that seems very, inclusive and all that good stuff. I've always gone and been wherever I want to be, but there was a time where it was like, again, it wasn't that easy to do that. You really had to be committed, Yeah. And sure. If I was doing that, which I was, and going to those spots, I wasn't going to lose who I was in the process. And who I am is just a regular middle class white suburban kid who has a liking for all sorts of music and nightlife. I like to fight, so I like to, we did our thing, and I figured that was if that was good enough for me and my people, why wasn't that good enough for fans if they were going to like House of Pain? Yeah. And so stripped down in that era was the look. I mean, and Cypress was a big part of that too, because we seen all those photos that Mike Miller took of Cypress when you couldn't see who they were, army jackets, buckets, hats covering their face. Yeah. I was like, yo, it's as stripped down as you could get in a era where hip hop had hit its zenith with like MC Hammer and the shiny pants, and it was just like everything was like shiny and glittery and over the top gaudiness, and then all of a sudden here comes Cypress Hill and House of Pain.
Super gritty.
The complete opposite. Yeah. Gritty, stripped down. Onyx on the East Coast, started, popping off, and Biohazard was getting down with that. And, I was even a fan when, it was a notable moment when, Anthrax and Public Enemy, and even before that, Sick of It All, and had KRS-One going, fresh for 89, you suckers. And I'm like, yo, I had that record too. And then I met you, and you were running with them. So it was like, that was like, you gave me a Sick of It All coach's jacket. I rocked that for years.
In the video too, man.
I'm saying that was a jump off. So
it's awesome.
Those things I love. I guess, so when I say like favorite white rap or we're white boys in this, I mean, obviously that's the truth. But what I always liked was to see that infusion. I love when the Clash came to New York and found hip hop and started making records like Radio Clash and Magnificent Seven, where you could see Futura 2000 in a video at Radio Clash, racking spray paint, getting off on a skateboard, trucking down the street. The banner at Shea Stadium was The Clash, written by Futura. The 12-inch single was that. They decided to make a record with him. There's, the escapades of Futura 2000, which was like, he's rhyming on that. Futura's rhyming on the Combat Rock record, on that Angels song about the guardian angels, I think.
Shit, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Oh yeah. So I mean, bro, this is where when you think I didn't trip out when I saw the documentary, the Sex Pistols documentary, Filth and Fury, when Malcolm McLaren was like, yo, we left England and came to New York in '79, and I'm walking in, I'm walking in Manhattan, and I run into a dude with a Sex Pistols shirt and a mohawk, a big black dude, and introduced himself as Africa Bambaataa.
Sick.
I mean, and then next thing you know, Malcolm McLaren's a rapper doing,
I remember that.
Duck Rock and Buffalo Girls, which was real.
Yeah.
And The Damned, and now all of a sudden, I thought Captain Sensible was a rapper from England. I'm like, why are the English rappers so old? Because he's like, I said, Captain. I said, what? I said, Captain. I said, what you want? I don't know if you remember all that.
I do. My wife loves that shit. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
all the crossing genres and shit.
Yo, Adam Ant had ant rap. I mean, I'm an Adam Ant fanatic, bro. And all of a sudden he's rapping, and Bow Wow Wow is doing C60C, 66, 64, whatever. I mean, everybody's starting to like incorporate hip hop.
Didi Ramone rap album. Yeah.
Yo, Robert Plant got breakdancers and I'm in the mood when his solo record and cut his hair short. I'm like, you're on our team now. Come on. It was really in LA. It was tough because it was like Heshers versus everybody.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of numbers of just dudes that were like, just stoner dudes, dicks. I never liked those dudes because they were very closed-minded, usually racist, usually,
Yeah.
And I don't know. That was a status quo. So I just couldn't wait to get out of the San Fernando Valley and get over, to the other side of the hill and see how the other half lived. And, it's the kind of thing movies are made about. When you see Valley Girl, it's real. You know? Two dudes coming from Hollywood into the Valley back then to date girls. I mean, you were like unwelcome, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You couldn't go we used to surf Glen Kennedy surfboards because everybody at the beach knew that was a Valley guy and you were coming from the Valley. So if you go to Malibu, all it was spray painted all over was Val's Go Home. And if you got out on the water with the Kennedy surfboard, you were basically, saying, fuck you,
Wow.
Like what?
Yeah.
And so we used to rock specifically, rest in peace, Glen Kennedy, who just passed away a couple months ago. But any Valley dude knows what I'm talking about. That's real, And so, and then to flashback all of this stuff, in '89, I went to the movies to see Lost Angels, which was Ad Rock's like first, real movie that he ever did.
That one, yeah.
That movie was stolen or rewritten about an article that was in the Rolling Stone magazine with the Valley suburban gangs, where it mainly talks about a gang called FFF and a kid who was murdered, Mark Miller, who's from that gang. But it mentions Mickey Mouse Club at length. It mentions a bunch of other gangs. And that was like a big deal when that happened. It kind of shook the Valley to its core. And it also brought that to the attention of a lot of law enforcement. And it was right at the age where I was already it was just falling apart anyway, and people were going off to college or moving out of the Valley and whatever. So it was like the end of an era, but it's ironic that my favorite group at that point, hip hop wise, were the Beastie Boys, as far as, they're doing it and they're doing all the little mixing in that punk stuff with the thrift store stuff with the
totally.
And, just to see him in that movie at the time, I didn't know that was based on that article. And I was like, this is insane. Cause it's like matching our West Coast life, the way he's dressing with the gas station shoes, the biscuits you get at Sears, the black, jump offs, the White Sox, the Dickies, the
Ben Davis.
The McCarthy. No, not even. That's like I didn't know about that till they brought that out of XL at their store. That's like up north stuff. But we had like MacArthur jackets and all that, just like just dressing like either like a doughboy from the 1940s U.S. Navy, or dressing like a cholo in the 70s Southern California. So to see that movie was a trip too, because I was like, well, what am I watching? This looks like a Mickey Mouse Club documentary or an FFF documentary. So
that's crazy, man. Did you ever get to talk to him about that, or meet him and talk to him about that, or no?
Nah, bro. When we went on tour with them, that was the first tour we ever went on. It was also the first tour we ever got kicked off on. Everlast set it on their tour manager. I bought an AK-47, was putting it on everybody. We were trying to replicate License to Ill, and they weren't trying to hear any of that. So
no way, that's fucking crazy.
Now when like opening bands, like they get to your dressing room and they try to like barge in, they're like, "Yo, dogs, yo, what's up?" They think it's like, and you guys are like, I don't know, you're eating tofu, meditating, whatever you're doing, and you're like, "Excuse you." This is our sanctuary,
Damn.
We came barging in. I'll just speak for myself. I came barging in their dressing room the first day we got there, like, yo, 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 yo. And they were like, no. Like, that's just not how that works. I was disappointed. I was like, oh, they hate us.
Damn. So that was the first tour was opening for Beasties on holy shit.
Yeah, at their request. And so,
Wow.
I used to do weedwear. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember I do, yeah.
Yeah, my first real client was Extra Large Store, and I think I did some like little hashtag, or air quotes modeling. They did the LA News did an article on them, and that we were sitting out front and dressed up, and all of that stuff. And they used it in a few things, but regardless, man. Yeah. So the House of Pain is really, in my mind, it's an extension of the stuff we were doing as Mickey Mouse Club, which that's why when people are like, Mickey Mouse, he's in the house. If you know the first record,
yep,
you hear it sprinkled in there. It just doesn't make sense to you if you're not in the loop,
Yeah.
Why we wore Mickey Mouse shirts. And I'll even do you one better. The fact that all that's in the Outsiders as well, with 2-Bit Rock and the Mickey Mouse stuff, it was apropos for me for it's come full circle. And so there's always something Mickey Mouse in my life, figuratively and literally. So
that's crazy. So when you linked up with Everlast, you guys make like a demo and shopped it, or how fast did you get?
Nah, so originally it was like more of a concept. He was staying with me for a while, and I was doing a lot of nefarious stuff with reprogramming credit cards, and so he was staying with us, and we started building on the idea of it. He found a cassette that I had named House of Pain, which was, I just made a J card for some weird demos that we were doing, which, I'd always dabbled in music, but it was garbage. I mean, it was just an excuse to just do something different. I worked at a record store for a few years at a chain called The Warehouse.
Yeah.
And so I had a massive collection because I helped myself to most of their product. And when he came over, and I also was a pet peeve for, like, if you borrowed a cassette tape and you brought it back without the little case or the J card was missing, I'm like, yo, really, bro? Like, so if I made that mistake by leaving it in a chick's car or whatever, I'd always try to make another one at the Kinko's or whatever. So I had a bunch of blank tapes that I had recorded on, and I put the nice little J cards on them. So when he was like, House of Pain, what's that? And I was like, yeah, that's my group, and he's like, your group? And I was like, yeah, and I don't know. He just liked the name. And so when we started talking about putting something together, he was hip to it. I think he wanted just to not be solo anymore. I think he didn't like the idea of, like, having to be the front face of that after the Rhyme Syndicate stuff. Might have left him a little bitter and whatever. And at that time he saw Cypress and he liked the idea of having a few dudes with him.
Yep.
And at the time I was rallying for another DJ, a guy that we grew up with in the Valley, who was an incredible, like, unmatched. His name is DJ Arrow. But eventually, Eric insisted on Lethal, which was his original DJ when he was solo. And it just became the three of us. Originally, there was Todd Bailey and a few other dudes were like peripheral. Matt Champy, the guy who died, that we dedicated that first video to. But they weren't going to be really in the group. They were just going to be like, goons. This is
totally.
They were just going to be, part of the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Of House of Pain, because really that's what we were. Again, we were the Mickey Mouse Club, and he liked that whole how we moved and how we looked and how we rolled, out to the clubs.
Yeah.
We had a little thing in Hollywood, and at the time there was a lot of dudes also around looking similar to all of that. Balthazar Getty and David Arquette, and you know what I mean. Everybody had that aesthetic of, like, baggy trousers, mailman shoes, white t-shirts, slick back hair, 3/4 length Westies jackets. You know what I mean? Yep. We personified all that shit. That was us,
Yeah.
So anybody at that time that was into hip hop, but was also living in Hollywood, you could tell we came from Hollywood at that point. We were no longer Valley dudes.
Yeah.
We kind of brought our style over there, and they were already doing that stuff too.
Yeah.
So it was like, everybody was like, okay, this is the next, So,
yeah. So you start saying, make your name out there, and so then when you guys get
it was quick. So dude did it. So originally we were talking with this kid, Danny. Damn, what's his last name? I could see his face. I know his sister, Michelle. Danny. Gosh, big producer still.
Okay.
Seal, Billy Idol, all kinds of, like. It'll come to me. And I don't know what happened. It was Everlast in the House of Pain, and we had a little band that was another band, and it was just too much. And I think when he was shopping those demos originally, people were like, you know what? You're either rap or you're rock. We don't know what you're doing. It doesn't make any sense, because we were trying to do a band.
Yeah.
Eric was already like, I can sing too. So anybody who thinks that that's like a new idea after House of Pain, it's not right. This dude used to walk around with the guitar. Him and Divine Styler were like always trying to play guitars and write. You know what I mean?
Wow, interesting.
And so so they were always trying to do their Jimi Hendrix version of hip hop. Like bringing guitar into it and all types of stuff. But at that time, nobody wanted to hear that type of stuff. So we lost the band and we became a 3-piece, which was me, Lethal, and Eric. And he did a few songs with Quincy Jones' son, QD3.
Yeah.
And at that time, he had just done like some LL Cool J, like 17 Shouts to the Dome. Basically, it sounded very R&B-ish. It wasn't a perfect fit. And then Muggs came in the picture. We ran into him. I remember Eric taking me to a club saying, "Yo, I want to introduce you to Muggs, Cypress Hill this, Cypress Hill that." And we went out and met with them. And next thing you know, he was like, "Yo, come out to Muggs' house. We're recording right now. Tell Muggs about this House of Pain thing." Like, he wanted me to pitch Muggs the concept.
Wow.
So I did. And next thing I know, Eric came to my house one day. He's like, "Let me borrow some records." I'm like, "Which ones?" And he's like, "Give me some good stuff to like try to sample or to show Muggs." And I gave him a bunch. And it's one that I never got back, and I was pissed. And he'll I'm sure he could remember. It doesn't matter. And now I'm gonna forget it. You and me and we messed up. It was a ska. What's the guy from like the UK Subs who did like a ska band after that?
Oh, he did? I didn't even know that, dude.
Yeah, what is it called? Messed Up.
Fuck.
Oh my God, it's a classic.
They're a ska band in like the 80s?
Yeah, of course.
He was from UK Subs. Let me look this shit up right now.
My boy Baron hooked me up with the record, dude, and then I borrowed it, and then I left it to Eric, and Eric left it at Muggs, and I never seen it again.
Holy shit. I'm looking up right now, UK Subs, and then ska band. I wonder what it is.
Or the Exploited.
Exploited's great, yes. English British punk.
Who's the singer?
The Exploited's Waddy. Yeah, the singer for Exploited's name's Waddy. But there's also Charlie Harper, Steve Ron, Jamie, Alvin Gibbs, UK Subs, had another band, Street Punk. Looking at it right now, man. I didn't know they had a ska band after that. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm never. You could.
Britain's R&B scene, Charlie Harper. Yeah, wait. It's a bunch of shit. Who knows? But so that's the record you took?
Anyway, so he took a bunch of my little flavors because Eric was strictly hip hop dude. Like, he was strictly, and he must have known. He knows, obviously, growing up, his father was into like all the, all of the stuff that he liked, Creedence and all, all of those type of whatever, the Eagles, all that. But nobody at that time, and I assure you, and fuck anybody who says different, like, there was only a handful of heads that really knew like all of those landscapes, like the real punk stuff, the real hip hop stuff. The kid who gave me that record, Baron, he was on point like that. We used to go back and forth because he was deeper with the punk stuff than I was. Because when it comes to punk stuff, I never considered myself punk. I was in a punk gang and did that thing for real. But I was more of a b-boy, who dressed like a cholo, who listened to punk. And this punk I like was skate punk. It was nardcore stuff. It was Stalag 13, like I said.
Their Repute,
and RKL, or Rich Kids on Acid, and on
LSD,
it was like that. You know what I mean? I liked Suicidal. I liked Beowulf. I liked Excel. I liked all of that West Coast. Agent Orange was my favorite, and it's not even, to me, I look at that now. It's not. It's more like rock than
so rock new wave or some shit. Yeah, Agent Orange.
Yeah, just it's like crunchy, but I love it. Agent Orange to me is like the ultimate. The songs are well written, and it's got that edgy Orange County.
Yeah. So,
but nonetheless, all of that was in the soup. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So when the record came out,
check it. So Eric went to Muggs' house. He came back the next day with a 3-song demo.
Oh shit!
Jump around, put your head out, and come and get some of this. Damn. And we played at the house, and everybody was like, "Wow, game over."
Fuck.
And I played Jump Around over and over in my own apartment with like 10 kids in the living room at all times, because my spot was like the flop house. Again, I was doing a lot of crime, so money was coming in. There's a nice little apartment, and people, and the whole building was filled with dudes like me, or there was nobody going to complain. So we play our I had a drum set in the living room, the whole nine. It was like bonkers. Awesome. But we would play this song over and over, and people were moshing in my living room, smashing my shit. And I just knew that's how Because your
Yeah.
friends would be like, yeah, that's cool, you know, but they're not going to stay on it like that. This
No.
thing was undeniable. I mean, it's obviously we know that now because it's still going. But,
Fuck.
and so the rest is starting to now it's starting to speed up really quickly, you know, and it was just like, hang on, here we go.
So getting a record deal was easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up being a no-brainer. It was just depending on where, and that's when you know, if you can get if you're a hip hop act and you're signed at that point to
Tommy
if you're
Boy?
signed to Def Jam or Tommy Boy or any of those type of I mean, but in particular Def Jam or Tommy Boy, that's the gold standard. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it was like more impressive than you can imagine.
So it was like overnight, or so the single came out first before the record, didn't it? Or the video blew up?
Nah, so I mean, no, dude. So we got a record deal, and everybody was loving it. And the next thing you know, Crisscross dropped Jump.
Oh shit!
So the original record deal that we were offered was through Rough House, because Muggs was signed, and you know Cypress was signed to Rough House.
Yeah.
And so we were, out of respect, offered them our record, and I think they offered us something like 50 or 60 grand, which was like, really, you know?
Yeah.
And originally our manager was at the time was Rifkin over at Loud.
Yeah.
Or it was Finfer, but he gave it to Rifkin. Rifkin was like, yeah, I'll give you a single deal. You only want to buy Jump Around. And we were like, nah. Eric was like, no. It was when Danny wasn't doing anything. Danny was, you know, chilling. But
yeah.
My point is we ended up at Tommy Boy, and next thing you know, we're just about to launch, and all of a sudden, Crisscross will make you jump. And now they originally had sent us that record with Muggs. There was no Jump on it, and then they heard Jump Around and loved it and wanted to sign us. I think it was for 70 or 80 grand, and we were like, nah. Damn. And then so they were like, well, fuck it, we'll just make our own. And so they, in the 11th hour, they got Crisscross to do a song and put the hook jump.
Holy shit.
And they dropped it immediately. And it was a hit. So it was like, well, I mean, I thought it was over right there. I mean, imagine you got your ace in the hole. It's a short shot. And next thing you know, someone else drops it because they heard it. You gave them the privilege of hearing the demo.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so we thought it was over, but Tommy Boy was smart. They're like, fuck them. Let it ride out. And then we'll drop right after. I was like, nah, because when you're young, you're like, nah, whoever G's off first, that's the one, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But they were wiser. They were like, let it come, it'll go. And it was only about a 2-month thing where it was like popping. And then right as it dropped, it started to fizzle.
Yeah.
All you hear was that horn, wham, 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 wham.
Yeah.
It was all over but the shouting. And so.
Damn.
And that's it, man. From there, I mean, we could spend another hour or 10 talking about all of this reckless shit, but looking back, for me, it's really like a movie I've seen, man. It doesn't really seem like my life. There's been so many things that have happened since then, and so many ups and so many downs. I mean, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes it's the worst thing that ever happened to me. Because
you got money quick. Like you became so rich and famous so quick.
I wouldn't say so rich or so famous, but we started to pop, and we started to make good money, and we started to spend even more money. And you know, it brings out, as you know, and you've been around it as long as I've been around it, sometimes it brings out the worst in people. Sometimes it changes people. Sometimes it affects everybody differently. And I honestly can say, because of my drug addiction, which was later after, you know, House of Pain started to fall apart, I started to dabble in drugs.
Yeah.
I you know, when I first got sober, I used to hear people say like grateful alcoholic and grateful. I'm like, grateful? Are you kidding me? It's like the worst thing I could imagine anybody having to suffer through. It's one of them, you know?
Yeah.
But now I consider myself a grateful, recovering addict alcoholic. And why I say that is because without that bad experience, I wouldn't have been able to get to better my life moving forward with, you know, finding a power greater than myself that I call God, being able to be of service, to look at things for their true value and not what I think is valuable. The outside stuff, as much as I love shiny stuff, and I will always love shiny stuff, I don't deny that. I don't act like, oh, I don't know, you know, I'm not trying to play like Buddha here and I always want a nice car, a nice watch, but
Yeah.
those things don't define me anymore, and they don't. I'm not my drive is not based on that because I would work
Yeah.
a lot harder and be a lot more shrewder if that's all I cared about. Those outside stuff never fixed me. They fix other people, so be it.
Yeah.
Those for me did not fix me, and I had been walking wounded way longer, way before House of Pain ever happened.
Mm.
And it all starts at home, and it all goes back to mommy issues or daddy issues or whatever your issues are.
Totally.
So in my case, because of my alcoholism and because of the drug addiction that I acquired, it became, jail's institution or death or get sober. And so
Yeah.
by the grace of God, I got sober and I was able to, stay sober. And it didn't take the first time. I had 3.5 years when I decided a drink wouldn't be a bad idea. And the drugs was clearly the thing that destroyed me, and it took me down for another 3 years. And I saw you on that downward spiral because you had came to my spot.
Yeah, man.
And I was in and out of sobriety and half my weight, and I don't know what I looked like, but it was terrible.
It was scary.
And and so to be 14 and a half years, I'll have 15 years in April next April.
Amazing,
so
man.
I'm going to say 14 and a half, but I'm not good with math. But regardless, my point is that I had to go through that bad to get to the other side of that. And what that looks like now is that although I'm, definitely no saint, I'm far from perfect. I do have I have my marching orders, and it's trust God, clean house, work with others, and so coming all this way out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, after finding the Outsider's House on the Coka Nostra tour, and spending 5 years going back and forth on road trips, doing Delta Bravo and urban exploring and all that good stuff.
That was so cool.
Finally buying the house. I had no business buying the house. I had no experience in buying that house. I had no plan for that house except to make sure they didn't tear it down.
Yeah.
I had no money to fix it up, and it was in a million times worse condition than I could have ever imagined because I bought it sight unseen. And so I rallied around it, and we raised money, and we did fundraisers, and this whole town and this whole country and this whole planet really came together to make this dream a reality. And now I have a museum here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I live here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm Team Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I champion Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I like to say that, people thank me all the time. Thanks for what you're doing for Tulsa. And I got to be honest. I mean, I need Tulsa more than Tulsa needs me. And so it's a mutual appreciation society. I found a little piece of, authentic America that fits perfectly where I'm at in my life at 50. Yeah. I look back at all of the music stuff and all of that stuff as like a good, fun ride. I don't have any, there's times I'm bitter about this could have went that way, or if this guy would have did this, or if he would have said that, or she would have said that. But in the end, I'm blessed to have had the experience of House of Pain and doing House of Pain and the privilege of working with Everlast and Lethal. And I'll always look back as, it was up, down, and all around, but it was definitely something for the ages. And who knows? I could have, you just never know. So I never look at it but there are some pains associated with any of that. I don't know any other way to say that. And I got to be honest with you. Most of the guys that I still stay in contact, and I won't throw you into that loop, but because I don't know your situation, nor do I, it would ever come up. But a lot of the dudes I know, and basically without saying who I'm referencing, we all have that common thing in common. We all have that thing in common, which is there's fractured bands and they're two separate teams.
Yeah.
And even if they still work and you see them working, better, that there's team this and team that. And
totally.
And it's tough because you know what? You get a bunch of creatives, you put them together, they make something pop, and for the rest of their life, they're married, whether they like it or not. And people grow at different paces, and people evolve or devolve, and or whatever. And you look back and you're like, we're not even on the same planet, yet here we are on the same planet and expected to be, playing well with each other. And yet it's tough. And I really say that for, new cats and bands. I mean, this is something that it's age old. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time in close contact, and this
dysfunctional family, man. Yeah, man.
It really is, and my hat's off to you and bands like that have been able to weather the storms year after year and all the things that come in between it.
Sure.
Kids, marriages, ups, downs, drug addictions, this addiction, whatever. There's a million things that life will throw at a person.
Yeah.
And then you have to keep it all together in a band and constantly be progressing, and it's very few bands that could do it. My hats again was always off to the Beastie Boys. Rest in peace, MCA.
Yeah.
But had he had not passed, they would still be, doing their thing. And I'm sure that they've had their own problems or whatever.
Sure.
But I always admired that they kept it together and that they didn't fracture off. And you didn't hear, Mike D solo records trying to or Ad Rock trying to, whatever. They did their own side projects, but they were always the Beastie Boys. And it's something I've always wanted. And maybe that's because I don't write prolific rap records. Maybe if I was Eric, I would want to only be solo because I don't need the team anymore. But for me, that's where the big hurt was for me, because I always felt that House of Pain was a forever thing.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be, a thing when it was a thing, and then for a decade it was not a thing, and then it was a thing for a couple of years, and then it's not, and it's just, that is not how I saw it in my mind.
And that hurts too.
It hurts, and it a lot of self-esteem and pride is an ego for me.
Yeah. Was that hard to deal with when it did end?
It still is.
Yeah.
It still is. It's not even that it's just, anytime someone says, I love your guys' stuff, my first thing is like, we're not a thing, and you want to get into the minutia of, and I just smile and say, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And say thank you. But there's nothing, it's at the top of my list of things that, if that bother me, because I don't want to, I don't want to die going like, we never mended the fence between me and Eric, or mended, and that goes for everybody, not just in hip hop. Fuck hip hop. I mean, and I don't say fuck hip hop like that. I'm just saying like fuck any genre of anything.
Yeah,
it's in life.
Yeah,
like I don't want to. If there's, and I'm thinking now, you got me thinking. I have to do my maybe an amends list, but I'm sure there's a ton of people that I still owe amends to, or I still need to get closure with. And again, it's all part of growing, man. I know it. For me, I feel like I've come a long way, and I've only scratched the surface, dude. And at this point, this is at the 50-year mark. I felt like, despite what I want, what I feel I need, what I should have, basically 2 kids. I want a 4-bedroom house, 2 cars, and a white picket fence. That's fantasy land. That's sales commercials on the holidays. Like, that ain't real.
Yeah.
What's real is I'm healthy and a somewhat sound mind. Go find someone else to help, bro. Like, like that's the conversation I have with myself every day. You know what? So what? Now what? Go help somebody else. Go be of service to the community. And that's what the great thing about this Outsiders House thing is. It's like I started it to save a little house that was important to me. It was cheap, and I thought I could save it. And what it's turned into is a completely other thing. It's become a civic center, if you will.
So
and
amazing,
we use it
man.
for coat drives. We use it for AA meetings. We use it to tour for the Outsiders fans. I'm hoping to do weddings. Maybe if you and your missus renew your vows, you come to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and do it at the Outsiders House, Greaser style.
That's cool, man.
We're looking to do wine tastings, even though I don't drink. You have at it. Whatever. It's like I'm saying, I know you don't drink, but I don't care what you do, what anybody else does. It's like, do your thing. And so this thing has kept me involved at all levels. Monday through Friday, we have school children come through. They're on field trips. They pay a little to come through, and the school gets to spend an hour and a half at the house and learn about, the importance of Essie Hinton and her writing that novel at 15, and how Copeland got a hold of it and made the movie, and how it launched the Brat Pack. And it's all basically in your own backyard in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And what I found is a lot of the kids out here, unlike growing up in New York or LA, you could throw a baseball down Broadway and hit 100 famous people with that baseball. And I mean famous or infamous or successful. In Oklahoma, you'd be hard pressed to just look around. And I'm saying there's a ton of successful people, but they look like everybody else. There's and so they're very proud that Essie Hinton is from their backyard, from their neighborhood, from their school, from their city. And it still resonates with them 51 years after she wrote that novel, The Outsiders, And so I want to show them that, listen, even if she's failing out of 11th grade she wasn't failing out. She got a D+ in creative writing that year that she wrote The Outsiders in high school. And she got a D in English or something like that. And so, like, you know, those things don't define us in that moment. You know what I mean? And she wrote an American masterpiece that started the whole young adult category. Never in the history of literature had somebody been a teen writing about teens for teens, and it created the largest category and the highest selling category of all time, which is the young adult.
That's crazy,
thanks to like
man.
Harry Potter and all that. And all started right, a couple blocks away from where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
And, I just happen to.
Is she alive? She lives.
Yes. Oh yeah. I just talked to her today. We're actually I was telling you earlier. Not only am I interested in The Outsiders, she also wrote the Rumblefish, which was also filmed by Coppola here.
Yeah.
And so we're going to put up about 10 to 15 different location plaques, brass plaques in the movie locations. The first one gets dedicated November 1st at noon here in downtown Tulsa, and it's the scene where Matt Dillon gets hit over the head after being robbed in the alley and has an outer body experience. We've got the building owner to donate us, the wall space. The plaque was paid for by One Gas. It was pretty expensive too. Took a couple $1,000s for the proper brass plaque. And where the mayor will be out here with me and a few other, heads of state, and we'll dedicate this plaque. And eventually what I want is when people come to Tulsa that they don't need me, and independently of me, they can go see all these historical, movie locations. It's really Delta Bravo. It started here. This whole thing started for me when I was on tour with La Coka Nostra in 2009. We pulled through a little town called Tulsa, Oklahoma. I had no idea what Tulsa was. We were playing the historic Cain's Ballroom, same place the Sex Pistols played in '78. They still got a hole in the wall that Sid Vicious punched in the green room that they cut out and put in the office. And it occurred to me that my favorite movie of all time was filmed here, and I've been looking for the locations and couldn't be more blown away by that. They looked exactly like they did in '82 when they filmed here, and exactly like they would have in the '60s when they were trying to, that was the period of that book. And I was blown away, and I've been blown away ever since. And the story just keeps growing and growing and growing.
It's fucking awesome, man.
We've got PBS did a big thing on us. We got a documentary in the works. We got press up the wazoo, and it's not press for Danny Boy. It's press for just the legacy of this little girl who was 15 and wrote this great book and what came out of that. So my hopes are down the line, and after I get a couple years in on this thing, and again, we're in the infancy stages. We just cut the ribbon a couple months ago. The museum is open. Everything is good. Man. But eventually I want to do an S.E. Hinton museum. Maybe it's, a decade away, but somewhere where all of her work can be put in one common place, tied together with Francis Ford Coppola's work. And then we got Tom Waits and Stewart Copeland, who were one did the soundtrack for Rumblefish, and one was in both. Tom Waits was the guy who answers the door after they kill the Soch and said, "What do you boys want?" And they're like, "Get Dally, he knows it's Johnny. Tell him, hurry." That was Tom Waits in that, and then he was the bartender Benny in Benny's Billiards in the Rumblefish. So I'm going to try to see if I can't get them to do a musical wing for this museum, the future one, and maybe teach kids the value of art, literature, movie making, and music. So
it's so amazing that like you found that's one of your favorite movies, and you end up moving there and like bringing it back to life in a sense, and bringing more awareness to it, bringing all kinds of people to.
Toby, you got to know one thing about me: I'm all in or I ain't in at all.
I know you are.
Like
man.
I don't take bite-sized portions of anything, man.
To
a fault. So I'm in it to win it, and I found my home here. The people here are fantastic. We have the largest rideable strip of Route 66 still in existence. We have a historic movie theater, 91 years old, the Circle Cinema, which has two 35 millimeter projectors, 70 millimeter, digital, you name it. You feel like you're going back in time. The Cain's Ballroom is here. Any band who's anything has played Cain's at some point or another.
Man,
I mean, it's like a bucket list. It's like the CBGBs of the Midwest in their way of. I mean, when Metallica plays the BOK Center, James goes across the street and flicks it up in front of Cain's just for old time's sakes. It's got more history. So there's a lot of history here. I'm just scratching the surface for your listeners because, they may or may not know, but it's definitely a city that's growing exponentially. I first found out about Tulsa, obviously, 2009 when we came through. I I've been watching it ever since. I've been here 2 years now, but the growth has been incredible. I mean, it's miraculous, and people don't like it here in Tulsa to be compared to like Nashville or Austin.
Yeah.
But so what? This is what's happening. I mean, the growth has been incredible, and it's this beautiful little Art Deco city. I like to call it the Paris of the Midwest. It was built up on oil money. This is where the Getty family made its fortune. This is where Wade Phillips and Phillips 66 and all the oil men. They were Tulsans, so they came to Tulsa and made their fortune. And this city was built up with their money in the 20s. And you look around the city and your jaw will drop. You'll be like, wow, this is the biggest little city I've ever been to. People are friendly, $2 for gas, good food. And, I don't really want for more, and zero traffic.
Yeah.
I was just back in LA last week. Oh my God.
It's brutal, right?
What's going on? Oh.
Well, one of my questions I asked, one of the last questions, I pretty much can get already because I know you've been through a lot of things and I know where your head's at now, but you consider yourself an optimist or pessimist? I know the answer to that, I think.
I'm always optimistic, but I'm cautious. I always, that's the struggle, the angel and the devil on both sides of your shoulders, on either side.
Yeah.
I wake up very optimistic. It's those voices in my head that constantly tell me, dude, the fix is in. You've already been ruled out. My head is always trying to do me in. And that's, again, why for me, finding a program.
Yeah.
Help me through that. Just not drinking and using is great. That's just me not committing suicide on a day-to-day basis. But I needed a plan for living, and I got that in the 12 steps. And so in those steps, I was able to, uncover, discover, and discard all the bad stuff. I get a daily reprieve based upon my spiritual maintenance. And what that means, because I know it sounds like a lot of California psychobabble, but what it really means is like I can only stay clean on today's shower, not yesterday's shower. And my head will always play a very unpopular station called K-Fuck, and it constantly tells me, that I'm gonna fail, I'm not good enough, I'm a fake, I'm a fraud, and I just got to keep reinforcing and tuning that out, and just keep doing work, and whatever the work speaks for itself. I don't think it was a great motivational speaker. Every time I speak, people tell me it was fantastic. So my head tells me I'm awful and a fraud. Everybody tells me you were the most genuine, authentic person I've heard in years. Thank you for your honesty. And so again, I'm my own, I'm an optimistic guy who constantly has thoughts of my own demise.
Yeah.
And so I constantly work on it on a day. It's a struggle every day, but therein lies the challenge is, to constantly just bat those things down and keep moving despite. Somebody posted a quote a while back, and I don't even remember whose quote it was. And I'm not obviously, see a million on them on social media, but it basically said, something, don't tell me about, don't tell me about your problems. Tell me how you persisted despite those problems, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And that's everything, really. We all got things, man.
Totally.
Everybody's got like a problem. You
100%.
look at people and you're like, they got it going on. You don't know what they got.
No, they
you
don't.
have no clue.
Especially with social media, man. Yeah, man.
Oh, you're seeing everybody's like, Slane always it's his quotable, but he's like, you're watching a highlight reel.
Yeah.
Here's my highlight reel of all the great things that we do, and it's easy to go, wow, and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, we all, who isn't? You're on social media, you're gonna post all this stuff. You trying to. It's your lookbook.
Yep. Totally.
And so I get it. And if you're not in that, if you're not feeling it, all you have to do. I mean, I spent prior to moving here, the last 13 years in Beverly Hills. All I needed to do was step outside of my apartment to go, oh, I'm not enough. Better go back inside. I mean, everybody seems to have everything figured out.
Yeah, totally.
And as I was heading towards 50, I'm like, I don't have anything figured out. If you're listening at home and you're in a punk band or you were a rapper or whatever, check it out. There is no dental, medical, 401k, pension in any of this. And so it's the life you choose. But definitely, I never thought I'd make it to 50. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm 50, I'm like, wow, how am I going to pay for all this when I'm 60 or 70?
Yeah.
If I'm not, you know what I mean? And I hope to be just as like, on the go as I am at 50. At 50, I feel 20 something still.
Totally.
Mentally, for sure. I don't feel like, my body don't move the same as I did, and I can definitely tell you what, these are real concerns at this point. And this is the only downside. If you ain't getting mailbox money and you don't write that hit, There's a lot of things. So again, I try to stay in the day to day of it. I do one day at a time. Today I have everything I need. I got food. I got gas in the car. My rent is paid. I can obsess over what I think is going to happen tomorrow. All the stuff I always worry about never really comes true anyway. Go figure. Yet constantly worried about stuff. I'm constantly worried about stuff that never comes true. Go figure.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's everybody.
Exactly. But despite that, we still do what we got to do. And
100%.
so I learned to just try to, again, it shows me where the work is for me. It's in faith, and faith doesn't have to be in something else. Just faith that it's going to go the way it's supposed to go. Despite all of my antics and best thinking or best laid plans, it's still, it's going to be what it's going to be. All I'm responsible for is the footwork and to do what I say I'm going to do. And that's what I do.
Yeah, I love that, man. Well, thank you, Dan. We covered a lot.
Always a pleasure, my man. And again, I don't know if people tell you, but you've always been a very healthy influence in my life.
Thank you, man.
And you've always been that guy who's been, very. I watch you for over 25 years now, and I remember I see you running in New York, Nike'd up back in the day. I see you running at Runyon. You're always eating. You eat right.
Yeah.
You stay healthy. You've been on the PMA thing way before it became the buzzword.
Yeah.
And you really walk it like you talk it. I'm not just blowing smoke up the pipe. I'm telling you, it
Thank
is.
You,
but for your listeners, it is always good to look and see somebody who really practices what they preach, and I see the benefits of it, man. And I've seen you skateboard too. So when you say I used to skate, yeah, I used to skate. I like that. You get down for yours. I like it. And so you're the real deal, man. And
thank you, brother.
And it's always good to know that, And I think, I just the reason this podcast came about because I ran into you at that Beverly Hills juice spot. I seen you over there. I was driving by, I was in town for a couple of days, and you turned me on to that back in the day too. I remember walking in there like 5 years ago, like, this place is fantastic. How long you guys been here? And the guy looked over. He's like, I don't know, like 25 years.
Yeah, it's in the 70s.
I'm like, oh yeah, my bad. Like I only lived here 12 and a half years and never noticed this. But yeah,
I love Beverly Juice.
I'm the guy that used to look like Popeye. What happened to that old dude?
He bounced. He went back to Over the Valley or something. She's not there no more.
Oh snap! But he was in there back then.
He was.
Well, listen again. Like I said, man. Just to wrap it up again, the world needs more Tobys, and you've always been a very positive force in music and all of that stuff, despite your unsavory friends.
And I remember taking you to get tattooed in Avenue B.
Oh, you did. You got my first girlfriend, Megan. It's still on the back of my neck. Yeah. Christ and Sons. I remember it. I had the business card in my stash for a long time. You and Baba and his brother from that punk gang called Burbank Punk Organization. And Baba was working out there too, and Baba still's a tattoo artist now.
Yeah.
His brother Odie was with us back then. That was a crazy time.
And being in the Shamrocks and Shenanigans video, that was such a fun day, and it's fucking awesome.
Listen, you were part of the aesthetic. I mean, when people saw those, they were like, "Is he in the group?" You had the end racism. Yeah, that was important for us at that point, because with bald heads in '92, looking like skinheads, people wanted to know, are these dudes racist? And it's like, no, we're not racist. We're fucking, we're just hard rock kids that are doing us. And so it was cool, and it was important that we had you in there as well.
Thank you, man.
Even back then, I mean, you were tatted up to the nines. That's when most people were shook with it. They're like, I got to work someday. I ain't getting it. You already dipped. So again, you go way back with all that, man, and props to you. And again, sick of it all, and all those groups like that came and embraced hip hop. You know what I mean?
Totally,
when it was like might not have been the coolest thing. And I remember also Howie with the louder than whatever jackets and label and
that's right.
24/7 Spies. And I used to go to the record store. They were like, put this record in rock. We are not hip hop. We're not reggae. It was like
24/7 Spies.
It was like a different era, man. People didn't even know where to put that in a record store at the time. So
that's true.
But anyway,
much love to you, man.
Talking to you, man.
Yeah, I
love
you, brother,
man. And I'll see you next time, or bring out the fam. Come on.
I will.
Let's make a greaser party at the house. H2O should play the Outsiders' house on the lawn.
That'd be fucking crazy, dude.
The lawn jump off.
I'm so happy for it. I appreciate our friendship and everything, man. And I'm really happy for you, man.
Be well, Toby.
Much love, Danny.
All right, brother. Stay gold.
Bye. Hey, guys. Thanks for listening. Please rate, review, Subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, please do that. And whatever platform you are listening to this on, I'm glad you found me. You can rate me and review me on there also. So thank you guys sincerely for the support. I cannot wait for you guys to hear the next one.